So as we're sitting in these minutes, as people are coming on, each time I'm realizing it's a bit like the being with exercise, where you're sitting and noticing these people arrive in your consciousness, and what it does to you to do that. So as we sit in the next few minutes, every now and then, if you wish to peek, you'll also continue uh, the being with and noticing what it calls up inside of you without any particular content, no conversation, just the raw experience of presence with each other. I'm going to screen share something for us to voice in our chant. We'll just do it once. And what I'd like for you to do is, especially as you hear the first line, this is something familiar to a lot of us in our liturgy. Think of the faces you've just seen as you repeat the whole thing together, but certainly that for the first line. If you'll say it with me. May all awakened beings extend with true compassion their luminous mirror wisdom. May the merit and virtue of this group, along with our everyday practices, extend to all beings everywhere. May all be relieved of suffering, free from fear, longing, aversion, and ignorance. And may the way of awakening go on endlessly. Hitting the bell again there. As always, it's wonderful to see you. Last week, I'm sure many of you were here, or maybe many of you have said you've heard the recording. We reflected on um, living a life of gratitude and expressing that gratitude as our actual life. Um, is this a way of Thanksgiving, uh, as the ongoing act of fully engaging our lives in each other as gratitude. And also last week, as you know, I kind of took you on a little venture into a film about a famous musician and the messages that he offered through his practice. But today, I would like to take you to the temple where I did most of my training. So you can spend a few minutes with my teacher, Blanche Hartman. That's why I'm dressed like this. I'm kind of going home to the temple. But before we go, just for a moment, I want to say that I know most of us are probably getting multiple requests from different nonprofit organizations here at the end of the year. You get letters and you get emails asking for donations to sustain nonprofit organizations you might care about and who care about you and support you. And I sent one on behalf of Alamada last week. I'm sure many of you, if not most of you, received it. I also received one from Ryan Van Wyck and the group at Awakening Together in the Twin Cities. And the reason I'm mentioning it is because in it, in some of the body of the message, Ryan inserted a segment of a Dharma talk on gratitude by Blanche. And so I felt that theme of gratitude continue, of course. And it was also really touching to read the words that he had inserted that I had heard her say, my spiritual sort of mother or maybe grandmother. Words I'd heard before, and they began to resonate in me. And as I did, I remembered something which I hadn't really put together. When I was with her in 1998 at the Eheji Monastery in Japan, when she had her Dharma transmission was being sort of certified by the Soto Shu at Eheji that year, the day we went to Eheji, she was celebrating her 72nd birthday. And to me at that time, she was this venerable older woman who I loved and an honorable old Zen teacher, elder that I respected. And I was young and enthusiastic and in my training and practicing in Japan with her and living at Rinsoen, Suzuki Roshi's temple. And then I suddenly realized, oh, I'm that age now. And my 73rd birthday will be next week. Now I'm the old one in the brown robes or whatever. And something I really never imagined at that time. So there's another interesting resonance in it. as sort of an entree to the little video piece I want to show you at San Francisco Zen Center, I'm going to read a tiny bit. It came from what Ryan had excerpted from one of her Dharma talks. I'm not sure the year it was offered, but it was a good long time ago. And then in, I think, 2021 or something, that talk was summarized in Tricycle Magazine under an article called Just to Be Alive is Enough. But here's the part that I wanted to share with you as an introduction. She asked the question, how are we to live? She wrote, I think this question of how we live our life, how we actually live our life, not what we think about it, not what we say about it, but how we actually live it, may be the most important thing. Dogen Zenji said, to expound the Dharma with this body is foremost. Its virtue returns to the ocean of reality. It is unfathomable. We just accept it with respect and gratitude. So those are sort of old sounding words, but its virtue returns to the ocean of reality, what we just chanted. May all the awakened beings extend with true compassion their luminous mirror wisdom. And then she says in her own reflection, my first response, spontaneous experience of gratitude, she says, came more than 30 years ago as I was preparing to enter Tassajara Zen Mountain Monastery. I was sitting Tangaryo, a practice in which new monastics sit continuously with very few breaks for a number of days, in Tassajara, that's 5 days, to settle themselves and clarify for themselves and others that they are ready to immerse themselves in monastic practice. She would use this phrase a lot, to clarify and to settle oneself. It's an interesting phrase. And then she went on, and I want to share this because it gives you a little personal context. She said, I had to wait several years before I could go to Tassajara because I still had teenage children at home and I needed to work. So I was really glad to finally be there, but it was also very difficult. I had sat week-long sessions before, but in Tongariro, we didn't have walking meditation between periods of zazen. We just sat all day. And it was hot, and there were flies, and our knees hurt, and so on. Well, on the fourth day, I became more aware of what was going on around me. And having done this myself, I get the feel of what she's talking about. I heard the sounds of the students working outside. I became aware of the cooks preparing food for us. You can hear from the kitchen things going on. The servers serving us, and I began to feel grateful that they were all working so that I could sit. Then I began to feel gratitude for Suzuki Roshi, that he had come to this country to teach us and establish the monastery so that I could sit. And then, like a line of dominoes falling, my gratitude went racing back through the whole lineage. From Suzuki Roshi to the Buddha, if any one of them hadn't kept this practice alive, I wouldn't have the opportunity to sit today. So instead of being miserable, hot, hurting, and tired of flies, my experience was overwhelming gratitude for everyone who had made it possible for me to practice. And we, through the activities of our life, are also offering gifts to others. This dance of offering and receiving is going on continually. Gratitude and generosity generate each other. Gratitude and generosity generate each other. And then she says, what better antidote to suffering can there be than gratitude? So I really appreciated this. And just her use of the analog or the metaphor of dancing, of course, reminded me of last week's thing about Bruce dancing with his mom. But the piece of video I'm going to show you will be the remainder of my talk. I'm cheating. I'm letting Blanche do the talk. So it'll be between 10 or 15 minutes. I can't remember what it is, but um, this was a talk that she offered in 2014, not long before she fell and broke her hip, and which ended up in her dying just 2 years later at age 90. So she's toward the end of her life. She's not as robust as she was when I first met her. But I wanted you to hear her voice and to see her body sitting in the Buddha Hall and to get a feel for what it was like uh, in her later years. This older woman speaking to us as she's doing. So once again, I have to go through the clumsy process of sharing this just for a moment, and hopefully the audio will work. Okay, let me see if I can get it to go then.
Good morning, everyone. It's great to see you here on this beautiful day. Thank you for coming.
And I'm going to stop her right away because at some point she's going to ask to chant the Metta Sutta. And I can't screen share it, but I think we can do something more important. What you don't get to do on Zoom, I'll leave it on so you'll hear the assembly chanting. And that's something we don't often get to hear.
Those of you who've heard me give a Dharma talk before, I seem to have gotten on a one-way railroad here in the last few years, months, whatever, of my life, which is expressed very beautifully in the Sutra on loving kindness. So I myself have been the one who has received the kindness of the whole world and want to repay it, to express my gratitude with generosity. That happened most dramatically for me when I recovered from a heart attack in 1989. And I stepped out of the hospital and I said, wow, I'm alive. I could be dead. Wow, the rest of my life is just a gift. And then, just a minute, it's always been a gift. Pity I didn't notice it before. Try to understand this life of yours as a gift, and that will really make a difference, I think, in how it is for you. It certainly did for me. You, I hope, don't have such a dramatic way of encountering it. But I am truly grateful that what came to me in that moment of having survived the heart attack was gratitude. Gratitude is a wonderful feeling. I highly recommend it. So I can't help but want to talk about loving kindness meditation. I mean, Paul is leading a practice period on continuous practice. And of course, in this case, it means continuous practice of the Buddha way, of Zazen. And you can focus on breath during Zazen, but you can also focus on gratitude during Zazen. Your presence and focus of practice is what needs to be continuous. what you focus on is going to be different for each one of us because each one of us has had different experiences of life. In any event, I would like to, I think we're going to give out copies of the loving kindness meditation and read it together as an introduction. Um, While we're passing these out, are there any of you who are here for the first time? Oh my goodness. Wonderful. Thank you for coming. And of course, thank you for coming to all of the regulars who come quite often. Then somebody got,
Grandmother in
I think
charge.
what's going around now is the whole sutra book. So you're looking for loving kindness meditation. I don't know. Okay, thank you. There's an extra one here if anyone needs it.
I could have skipped over all this part, but I think it's useful to feel the ordinariness and just the sense of community there.
Okay. Loving kindness meditation. This is what the sheep accomplished by the one who is wise, who seeks the good and has the same peace. One who be strenuous, upright, and sincere, without pride, easily contented and joyous. Let one not be submerged by the things of the world. Let one not take upon oneself the burden of riches. Let one's senses be controlled. Let one be wise but not puffed up. Do not desire great possessions even for one's family. Let one do nothing that is mean or that the wise could reprove. May all beings be happy. May they be joyous and live in safety. All living beings, whether weak or strong, and high or middle or low, come to existence. All are great, physical or invisible, near or far, born to be born. May all beings be happy. Let no one esteem another, nor despise any being in any state. Let none lack anger or hatred which harm to another. Even as the mother had witnessed her life, watches over and protects her only child, so with the boundless mind she will cherish all living things, keeping up over the entire world. So that people faith and think goodwill toward the whole world. Standing or walking, sitting or lying down, during all one's waking hours, let one practice the way with gratitude, not holding to its views, and out with insight, freed from sense appetites. One who achieves the way will be freed from the duality of birth and death. So for me, that is a very inspiring ambition to love all beings everywhere. It's a big, it's a big effort, but it's well worth the payoff, which is feeling gratitude for this life that we have been given right here, right now, and recognizing how connected we are with all that lives. One of the most important experiences um, that I have had is having the vivid sensation of being boundarylessness, of not having anything separate me from anything else. What Dogen Senji calls the experience of oneness. He calls at one place in this fairly new book of called, I think it's called Essential Dogen. Uh, he equates delusion with ignorance of oneness. And certainly for the first 50 years of my life, I had never had such an experience of being one with everything. But I did have such an experience, and I couldn't imagine what it was. And I went around looking to find out who could tell me what that experience had been of identity, non separation, oneness with everything. Um, when we can have such an understanding, we will be able to respond to this loving kindness meditation in a different way. To realize that we are one with everything, always, whether we notice it or not. And in light of that understanding, then we naturally want to take care of everyone, including this one, but not excluding anyone. Anyhow, that's a tremendously enticing possibility to me that we could love all beings without exception. It's worth working on a little bit, a lot of it. Even as the mother at the risk of her life watches only and protects her only child, so with a boundless mind should we cherish all living beings, suffusing love over the entire world, above, below, and all around, without limit. Isn't that a great vision? Isn't that worth working on? I think so. I think that's what the loving kindness meditation is all about, is encouraging us to cultivate that mind, which is possible for all of us. Am I speaking loudly enough? Okay. Um, it was a song that I sing sometime. Look for the silver lining whene'er a cloud appears in the sky. Remember somewhere the sun is shining, and so the right thing to do is make it shine for you. A heart full of loving gladness will always banish sadness and strife. So always look Look for the silver lining, and you'll see the sunny side of life. Came from, it's a popular song of about 60 years ago. Uh, but I also like very much a song that all of you probably know. So if you do, you can join in with me. Just a moment. This is what happens to memory at 88. Oh yeah. This little light of mine, I'm a gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm a gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm a gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm a gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm a gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm a gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Thank you, everyone. It was fun. You might try that sometime when you're feeling a little gloomy, just see if you can shine a little light on the subject.
Just bow to her. I realized when she leaned over to put down her copy of the Metta Sutra, you can see that she's sitting in a chair. And in my entire time with her, I never saw her sit in a chair, either in the Zendo or in the Buddha Hall. But I didn't see her in that last couple of years. So you can see some of her age, but you don't. But you also see the vitality. You know, Joko was the same way. Peg and I went to see her at that pretty much that same age, around 88. Um, she looked her age and all that, but she had that kind of vitality I think practice had brought. So if this calls forward things for you, I'd love to meet with you about it or hear from you. Continuing these teachings of gratitude and generosity and how they move together. The musical element of today's program is a little different than last week's, but wonderful. Grandmother Mind this time. If you'd like to speak up, just raise your hand as usual. Could you hear the kids in the background? I don't know if you could hear it. There were children there too. Becky?
I had an amazing experience of being with her. I completely forgot that I was at inquiry. I forgot I was there in a way that just amazed me. And every once in a while and it just makes sense in a way that I haven't experienced with something like this. It made sense to me. She is still here. And I really just experienced it as I was right there too. And I just thank you so very much for sharing this, certainly because of the message as well, but just that experience for myself, because I can't even just watch things that are recorded and take it in the same way that I do now when we are together.
Yeah.
And I experienced that with her. I was there with her. Yeah. So I just I'm tingling still from that.
Yeah, me.
And yes, I think it's the place that we need to live from as best we can and invite it all the time.
Yeah.
And all the ways we can share with each other when we do have small experiences of it or any of that, or the ways that we share with each other. And it's so rich to be able to talk with each other about the ways that, because we're all so different and so similar, to hear from someone else what has worked for them, inviting what we're moving toward and trying to live more in. So I really appreciate Sangha because it gives us so many, the ability to listen carefully to so many different perspectives around the same thing. So thank you. Thank you so very much for sharing this with us. And another, as you say, it's another way to keep open to this.
Well, I'm glad that you felt like you were present in the way that you did. I was having a lot of memories. The time she would stay with me and Aaron in our home in Austin when she would visit. She'd come out of her room in her pajamas and get her tea, and Aaron would make breakfast for her. And it's like having one of your relatives there. And yet I've seen her on these larger, essentially stages and beautiful things, which you see her, and she's the same everywhere. That's one of the reasons I didn't edit this. It just, you have it all, so thank you.
Thank you for.
Yeah.
I moved the Zoom screen so that I saw you both. And watching your connection with her was such a tender dance. And so I was remembering, Bruce and dancing with his mother. And so I saw you, I imagined you dancing in the Zendo in full robes, and how the expression moves through y'all and moves into us, into me.
Mhm.
Um, and so I'm trying to think of what my Zen question would be of when I forget how to remember.
It's a good question. And one of the reasons I showed you this and also read that little piece in the beginning, because she's saying, it's with our body. And they remember what you were watching is what was moving through our bodies. And to think, if I'm your spiritual father, teacher, whatever,
Right.
then you're the
Yeah.
grandmother.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can see it moving through. And to see it and feel it is how to remember. It's not really an idea. It's like you've been in the room with her, you took photographs of her,
Yeah.
and so you have that too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
you're
you.
the only person in my life who took photographs of both Blanche and John Gladfelter,
Yeah.
the two main mentors of the double helix. You're the only bridge in that way.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great gift for me.
Yeah. You do.
Hello, Flint.
Hey, buddy.
Oh, thank you. Um, this is the first experience I've had of seeing and hearing
Mm.
Blanche. I've read. This
Yeah.
is altogether different, and I'm in my 80s now, and it was moving.
Mhm.
And it was especially moving in the context of, this is what memory does when you're when
Yeah.
you're in your 80s, and music that is very familiar to me, and especially it's important in the context of this broken wrist, fractured wrist that I did. I fell about 6 weeks ago, and it has been an occasion for feeling. I have to say, in the very moments when I fell, the moment when I fell, and caught myself with my wrist and knew I had done great harm to my wrist. I was by myself on a sidewalk in downtown Madison. But as I was somehow getting up into standing again, I don't know how I did it, my first thought was, thank goodness I didn't hit my head. And it was this gratitude thing. It just, there it was. And then the rest of that day was like seamless with kindness
Mm.
from strangers, from people I knew, from my sons, from healthcare people. It just, I mean, it was painful. That moment of oneness is really, in her language today, was what I experienced. And this whole thing of living with a fractured wrist, and various casts and so on has been an opportunity to embody
Mhm.
my practice. And so, timing of this is so perfect. And I really want to thank you for that and everything. Thanks.
Dr. Norman Fisher, he happened to be at City Center. Blanche's apartment was on the second floor, and I don't know, he had walked up and he said he walked around the corner and he saw her on the floor of the hallway. And he walked up and said, "Are you okay?" You can imagine now that you've seen her. She said, "I'm not sure. I'm just lying here for a while to see." She had broken her hip, and that was the beginning of the end, which took a while. But that thing she said about Tangaria, about clarifying, settling and clarifying, well, let's see. She can get some help and get up. And you had that spontaneous infusion of gratitude, thank goodness, of all that came, which was a beautiful example of how do we navigate pain and difficulties without creating unnecessary suffering. That's what practice is for. And I think it was, there are many recordings of her audio and visual, but I prefer this one near the end of her life because of the way it shows the vulnerability and fullness all at the same time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie. When we were traveling in Japan, I carried her luggage and took care of some things like that. She had an attendant, Kathleen, that was with her, but I did the so-called heavy lifting, and she hated it. When I would try to help her, I can pick that up. And I said, I know. And I would take it from her. um, But it was always easier for me to navigate in Japan because I was so much taller than everybody in the bus and the train. So help her out. Mary,
Hi, Flint.
hi, so good to see you.
It's good to see you, and thank you for this presentation. I wanted to share that I just here in Austin at the Zach Scott, they put on a production of A Christmas Carol,
Ah,
which as your talk just resonates with that. There's they have this year it's Tiny Tina to be, it just and she's about 4, right? And so she stood up and sang this Little Light of Mine. So the juxtaposition of Blanche singing it and then a 4-year-old of it just opened my heart. And it it also brings to the question of like even raising my hand now and getting out here of like letting, I don't know what's going on, but it's just a sense of what is it oftentimes in me? It's a question you turning back that feels so almost like fearful of letting that light shine bright. Reminded of Marianne Williamson's comment of what is it, why are we afraid? Let our light shine. Something that was attributed also, I think, to Nelson Mandela of like, it's a gift that we're all children of God. So, yeah, embracing that both and of playing small and letting the light in. And there's that, I'm sure it's conditioning, but
well,
there's a.
there's all of us have our stories about that.
Mhm,
But more generally, I was speaking with some folks yesterday, and I said, our greatest longing and our greatest fear is actually the same thing, is being loved.
yeah.
It's the thing that we want the most that's at the bottom of everything, really. You want to love and be
Mhm,
loved. But then when it
mhm,
comes, it's potent medicine. And to let
mhm,
ourselves open ourselves, of course, we're vulnerable. We know that. And of course, we're
mhm,
afraid of maybe not being met fully when we're that way. It's also one of the reasons I play this is because she doesn't try to sing well. She sings like she sings. She's just
mhm,
herself. And so I think that that fear about shining is the fear that we won't be reflected back accurately, of course. That's the psychological.
mhm,
But the existential or deeper part is how it's so essential, this love that we want to offer and we want to receive. It's really foundational. One of the things I appreciated about her singing that piece, This Little Light of Mine, is that she grew up, her father was a physicist and he was in a laboratory and academia in Alabama. So there's a Jewish family in Alabama. You see her when she sings it, This Little Light of Mine, I'm a gonna let it shine. That's a Southern.
mhm. Yeah,
She learned it as a kid in Alabama.
yeah. It is just beautiful and lovely. So thank you for sharing. And the other piece just of the collectivity of the great interdependence amongst all of us. So I express gratitude for your leadership in the community,
Thank you.
holding us all.
Well, and that's also why I wanted everyone to hear the chanting because
Mhm,
we often get to hear it online. And that was such a large group of people. I don't know if it touches you, but it does to hear the volume of sound and the chanting. It's really unique and beautiful.
the cadence that just resonates throughout the body like a flow. I couldn't even really understand all the words, but it resonated in the fluidity of my body. I could feel it for sure. So thank you.
That's the point. Thank you, Mary, and
It worked.
thanks for being willing to shine a bit.
Thank you.
Hmm. thank you all for being here today and for participating and to kind of allowing me to share this with you and to share Blanche with you in that way. And I think as we end, let's voice the same verse that we did when we began today as a way to end, and reflect on it now as our chant. Did that come up okay? Okay. May all awakened beings extend with true compassion their luminous mirror wisdom. May the merit and virtue of this group, along with our everyday practices, extend to all beings everywhere. May all be relieved of suffering, free from fear, longing, aversion, and ignorance. And may the way of awakening go on endlessly. And by the way, there is a version of that, the essence of that, in the Appamada Chant book, or you can get it online, as well as the Metta Sutta. So I will ring the bell to end our time and hand it over to Jessica.
Thank you so much, Flint, and thank you, everyone. I really loved what Blanche said. Gratitude and generosity generate each other. Wow. So I'm placing a link to make a contribution to Appamada, if you'd like to do so, in the chat box for Giving Tuesday, or anytime you can do it. It's wonderful, and thank you for all the ways that you bring yourself forward and contribute already. If you can hang out on the porch for a bit with us, you're invited. Otherwise, see you next time. Thank you.